we're going to be taking a peek at graphing absolute value equations. A little different than doing it on a number line. It kind of can look like you could run into some things on a number line. That's more for our inequalities, not our equations. And so, a couple of things to take note of as we're playing along here. First thing, I kind of want to take a look at this in the calculator first. Might make things a little easier. So you're like, okay, reminder, f of x and y equals, same thing. Okay, function notation. If I'm going to look at this on my calculator, and I'm going to do this for a couple, and then I think we're going to find some patterns that we're not going to need it. So if I go to y equals, if there's something there, just hitting clear will wipe that out. But as I go to start putting this in, if I want to take a peek, okay, that absolute value, it's not a parenthesis, okay, or anything else like that. So to get my absolute value on the calculator, we're going to do math. We're going to go over to the numeric column. I think we chatted about this when we were doing them before. And we want number 1, ABS, okay? When we go to that, depending on the version of the TI you have, if it's the ones we have in class, the colors, the absolute values will show up. If you have a little bit older of a one of the gray ones or not one of the colors, it may literally say ABS and have a parenthesis there. Same thing, just looks a little different. So I can go ahead and get my x plus 1 in here, but then be careful, the plus 3 is not in here. So a little right arrow click will close that for me and get me to where I need to be. So if we take a peek at that, this is what I was talking about yesterday, where yesterday we were doing quadratics and we had a curve. Now we've got this V shape, okay, this sharp point with our absolute value graphs. So here's where we're going to start looking for a few things. My vertex or my middle point, I can see it, it's right there. If I count, I probably can even figure out what it is from the graph. Looks like I went left 1 and up 1, 2, 3. -1, 3 is sounding right, but let's check. If I look at my table, which is second in graph, here's what I'm going to be looking for. If I have truly found the vertex, and I thought it was at -1, 3, here's what I want to make mention of with this. If you're actually in the vertex, the center, you should see symmetry on both sides of your vertex, which means you should see the exact same y values both above and below your vertex. I see the same numbers above and below. So that tells me this value is my vertex, -1, 3. Now, unfortunately, my graph is a little bit small, so I'm only going to be able to plot one more point for each of these, each way. So I got -2, 5, and I got 0, 5. Make my V, okay? I'm going on my way. Hey. Okay, so far, like I said, we're doing button presses and things in this first one, but I don't think we're going to need them long term because we're going to see some patterns develop here. So here's the first one. When I look at this A, we're going to put a little air quote here. I'm putting quotes around slope because it's not necessarily traditional slope. That's if I have a line, if it's linear. This is still telling me, though, if I have this, and then over here I have 2, if I were to make that 2 over 1, like I was thinking about slope, up 2, and over 1. But the thing is, I'm going to do it in both directions to create that V shape. This is that whole thing with absolute value where there's 2 distances away. So when you go up and over, it's got to be both ways. You're just going to get a line. A couple of other things. If A is positive, it opens upward, like this V does, like this. If it's negative, it opens downward. So like if this one that I had here would have been -2 instead, and I graphed it, it's going to open down. Okay? So that's the biggest thing for me to keep track of with that. But here's the pattern part that might help us even more. HK, okay? This is your vertex. And I want you to notice something else with that. Here's H, here's K. So, when I'm given an equation, if I want to find the vertex right away without going to my calculator, you can just take the opposite of the H value, the number that's inside the absolute value, 1 to -1, and keep the value. The plus doesn't mean it's always positive, it just means, hey, whatever this is, that's your K value. So opposite of the number inside, keep the one on the outside. You have the vertex already, and you don't need to go searching around and fumbling around on a calculator. It's kind of nice. So, here's another little hint with H and K. So we already said it's the X value of your vertex. But it has another purpose too that we're going to need as we move on, and this is going to show up a lot during the semester. This is also going to be what we can call our left and right shift. Now you're going to think off the top here that Hardy's lost his mind when I put those symbols on there. You're like, wait, left isn't positive and right's negative. It's the opposite. What's he doing? Look inside the absolute value. It's the opposite of what H does. Okay? You would think plus would be going right, but it's the opposite. You would think minus would be going left. It's the opposite. So I'm going to come back to this once we do the K value, because it's going to be one more way that we can get the vertex value if we need it. So, speaking of K, put this all together. Is the Y value of my vertex. So we saw that. That is our up and down shift. That's more traditional. You'd think up is plus, you'd think down is minus. But here's how, another way you can look at this with your vertex. If you start at the origin on this one, okay, and you went 1 to the left, and you went 3 up, you're at your vertex. So knowing the HK thing will do it quickly. Otherwise, you can always think about it with the shifts, starting from the origin, and you can get there as well. We have lots of options. So origin to there, and then A, my little slope, will tell me where to put my other points if I need them. And so again, it opens up if A is positive, even though we mentioned that up above. Opens down if my A value is negative. So here's what I want to do down here below. I don't want to do all 6 again. I've got them all posted online if you want to see them later, but I want to hit the ones that let us get the most movement here. So for instance, on number 3, you're like, okay, X minus 3. There's no number on the outside. There is, we just don't see it. So that's 0. So my vertex here is the opposite of H and K. My X and my Y value. So there's my vertex. My A value to get my other points is the number that's in front of my absolute value. Well, Hardy, I don't see one. Well, there's one there. It really is. It's just going to be 1 or 1 over 1. And so since it's positive, it's going to open up. So I'm going to go up 1 and over 1 each direction. I'm not just going to say up 1 and right 1 like I would with slope. And that pattern is going to stay linear. I make my V and I'm done. So when you're doing these, the simplest way to go is always going to be, hey, all right, let's see here. Opposite of H. Again, the plus K just means keep it. So that stays as a -2. So -1, -2. My A value conveniently is 1 again. So from that point, up 1 right, up 1 left. We just go both directions, whatever that A value is. It's positive, so I know it opens up. I still can put it in the calculator if I'm not sure, if I want to double check or something like that, but for the most part, we should be good. So these last couple, 2 last twists. Ooh. All right, I'm going to rewrite this one quick. You don't have to do it this way when you go, but for notes, I think it's a good idea. And bless you. So here, I don't have a value in with X, so that's going to be like being 0. So my vertex would be at 0, keep my K value. So I got to be cautious because my eyeballs might deceive me. 0, 1 is just going to be up 1. I have a number in front this time. -2. It opens down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1 each direction. And then you just do it again from that last point. Get that nice linear looking V shape working. Down because my A value is negative. And so I believe the only thing we haven't touched on at this point is if we start getting weirder A values here. So I look opposite of H, keep my K, 1, -3. Now, this is why I like to call my A, my air quote, slope. Because if that was slope of a line, you'd say, okay, I got this. I go up 1 and over 2, which is exactly what you do here, except we're also going to go up 1 and over 2 this way. And up 1 and over 2. And up 1 and over 2. So it stretches my graph and makes it wider when my A value gets smaller. And when my A value gets bigger, it stretches up this way. So that's all we're really having to look at with these to get that set. Nothing real, no real big stressors. And so the only other piece there is to this, because you'll find in here, we do a lot of do it forwards, do it backwards. So we're kind of flexible with these things. So that last piece that we're going to look at looks kind of crazy, but it is not going to be as crazy as you think it is. So write the equation for the graph in vertex form. To do this, I need 2 things. I need to know the vertex, because that's going to give me H and K. And I need to know the air quote slope, because that's going to give me the A value. And you're always going to be able to get that information directly from the graph. So I notice a couple of things before I even start with number 8. First thing I notice is it's opening up. So my A value is going to be positive. I got that. Here is my center of my graph, my vertex. So there's H, there's K. I got 2 out of the 3 things I need already. So I already know X opposite of H. In this case, I really don't need to put the +0, but I will again because it's notes and we're trying to be good here. So now I just look, okay, what about my A? Well, let's see. Count between 2 points. 1, 2, 3, 4 up. And 1, 2 over. Hardy, you went left. Is it negative? No. No. The A value, if it's up, we're positive. If it's down, we're negative. So 4 over 2 reduces to 2. We tuck that 2 out front. We're done. We keep it simple. What if, let's play with one more. What if we play with 10? That looks kind of weird. It looks like it's really stretched out. It's opening down, so I already know this is going to be negative. So let's see. Here's my vertex. There's H, there's K. So I know, again, I could do X minus 0. I could just put X, because that's what X minus 0 would be anyway. Keep your K, so keep the negative 10. Now we got to play the air quote slope game. Now this is a little more interesting. So let's see here. We got down 2 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'll reduce the fraction. The larger numbers on the bottom, 2 divided by 8 is not 4. It's 1/4. Negative 1/4 in this case. And we're done. Pretty straightforward with the absolute value graphs. So again, if you want to put off dealing with this until tomorrow after the quiz because you don't want to intermix all of what you're thinking about, I get that. We'll still have this posted later with the other examples if you need to go back and check something later or do something with those. But what I would say when you get there, again, 5 and over to 6, you know the drill. Okay, we're looking for a minimum here of odds to check. If you see some that are weird and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try the weird one, and you need to ask me, like, is this the weird one right? I can help you out on that. All the answers for this are over on page 6. I did not forget the answers. Okay, so that's kind of your split here with things.